It's my privilege to introduce our guest, Sridhar Sihar, Assistant Professor of English. At present, sir working at Government First Aid College, Bellavi, Tumkuru University. Sir, today going to talk about Coleridge poem. You all know Ancient Mariner. The session is over to you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Padmashri Madam. We are going to discuss Samuel Taylor Coleridge's Rime of the Ancient Mariner. I hope I will do justice to the poem. Actually, we are in the situation where situation is very similar to the Ancient Mariner. But unlike him, I don't have any magical power of speech. So I hope you don't fall asleep while I am teaching. I don't know what I am going to do qualifies as a lecture. What I want to do is go through the poem with you as a reader, because I found it very beautiful, a strange poem, and it was very new to that age, and even now it is included in almost all the great English anthologies. What I'm going to do is, as a fellow reader, I'm going to read the poem with you, but we can't read the whole poem because it is 100 lines long, and we will go through some juiciest parts of it. Okay. Before going into the poem, let's have a brief look at the background. Let's have a brief look at the poet and the situation. This poem was written. Is the screen visible? The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. Let's take a look at the poet's life. A brief look, of course. Samuel Taylor Coleridge, one of the founding figures of Romantic movement in English literature. Coleridge, he was born to Reverend John Coleridge, a clergyman, and Anna Bowden. His father was a clergyman. And Coleridge was a sickly child from the beginning. Illness followed him from his childhood. Most of the time he kept to himself. Actually, he avoided boys' sports. Ontitana ಮತ್ತೆ ಖಾಯಿಲೆಯಿಂದ ಸದಾ ಹಿಂಬಾಲಿಸಲ್ಪಟ್ಟಂತ ಹುಡುಗ Coleridge. He often suffered from anxiety and depression. He also had bipolar disorder, which was discovered many years later after his death. And he was treated with laudanum. Laudanum ಅನ್ನುವಂಥ ಔಷಧದಿಂದ ಅವನಿಗೆ ಟ್ರೀಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಕೊಡಲಾಗ್ತಿತ್ತು. If you want to know about laudanum, opium was used in that medicine. ಆ ಔಷಧದಲ್ಲಿ ಓಪಿಯಂ ಬಳಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು. ಈ ಓಪಿಯಂನ ಅಡಿಕ್ಷನ್ Coleridge ಅವನ ಜೀವನ ಪರ್ಯಂತ ಹಿಂಬಾಲಿಸ್ತಾ ಬಂತು. He was often treated with opium, and most of you must know that one of his famous poems, Kubla Khan, was written in a hallucination state of opium. As I said earlier, Coleridge was a sickly child and he kept to himself most of the time, but he read a lot. He read this is Pottery St. Mary, a very picturesque village, Coleridge's birthplace, and that was the church where his father was a clergyman. Coleridge, most of the time he kept to himself. He read a lot. He read Robinson Crusoe and Arabian Nights when he was 6 years old, and these stories fascinated him a lot. They made a great impact on him. And later he was sent to a charity school. There Charles Lamb, the famous English essayist, was his classmate. Again, he joined the college. In college, he was friend with Robert Southey, one of the Lake School poets. Then, after some time in college, he wanted to join the army. He did not want to complete his studies. College just started avaniಗೆ. He wanted to join the army. He joined a dragoon regiment. There he worked for some time. ಅಲ್ಲಿ Coleridge ನ ಜೊತೆ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದಂತ ಒಬ್ಬ ಸೈನಿಕನಿಗೆ ಸಿಡುಬಿನ ಕಾಯಿಲೆ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಆಗಿನ ಕಾಲದಲ್ಲಿ ಸಿಡುಬು ಬಂದ್ರೆ ಸ್ಮಾಲ್ ಪಾಕ್ಸ್, ದೇ ವರ್ ಕೆಪ್ಟ್ ಇನ್ ಐಸೋಲೇಷನ್. ಈಗ ಕೊರೋನಾ ಟೈಮ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ವಾರಂಟೈನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರಲ್ವಾ, ಸೊ ಇನ್ ದ ಸೇಮ್ ವೇ ದೇ ವರ್ ಕೆಪ್ಟ್ ಇನ್ ಐಸೋಲೇಷನ್, and one person has to look after them. So the fellow soldier and Coleridge both were kept in a separate hut for 7 days and 7 nights. 7 ದಿನಗಳ ಕಾಲ ಕೋಲ್ರಿಡ್ಜ್ ಅವನ ಫೆಲೋ ಸೋಲ್ಜರ್ ನ ನೋಡ್ಕೋತಾನೆ. ಆ ಕಾಲದ ಒಂಟಿತನ ಬಹುಶಃ ಕೋಲ್ರಿಡ್ಜ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಬಹಳ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಇಂಪ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದೆ. Later his brothers, there is an interesting fact, both Coleridge's brothers worked in East India Company. ಭಾರತದಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಂಥವ್ರು, they were pretty influential too. Later they helped Coleridge, or they did not want Coleridge to continue in the army, so Coleridge was discharged from the army on the claim of insanity. ಇನ್ಸೇನ್ ಅನ್ನೋ ಕಾರಣ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಅವನನ್ನ ಆರ್ಮಿಯಿಂದ ಡಿಸ್ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಮಾಡಲಾಯಿತು. ಅದು ಅವನ ಅಣ್ಣಂದ್ರು ಮಾಡಿರುವಂತಹ ಕೆಲಸ. Anyway, even though his brothers wanted him to continue his studies, Coleridge did not complete his degree. Later, along with Robert Sade, he planned to establish a utopian society called Antisocracy, but that plan was failed actually. Then we come to most fruitful part of Coleridge's life, where he met the famous romantic poet, would-be romantic poet, William Wordsworth and his sister Dorothy Wordsworth. These two young poets, when he met Wordsworth, he was 22, 23, in his early 20s, and full of revolutionary zeal. They wanted to bring a revolution to English poets. Classical poetry was too rigid, too disciplined, too city-oriented, too artificial. These two poets, they wanted to bring a revolution to English poetry. They wanted to write poetry in a new way. They wanted to explore new themes. They wanted to speak about things which the previous poets deemed as unfit to poetry. And they wanted to do that, and in 1792, the seminal work of English Romanticism, Lyrical Ballads, came out. And The Rime of Ancient Mariner, the poem we are going to discuss, was the first poem and the longest poem in Lyrical Ballads. Actually, this poem, a little bit background information about Rime of the Ancient Mariner, this poem was written, you won't believe it, actually it was written for material benefits, or it was intended to written for material benefits. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸಾಮಾನ್ಯವಾಗಿ ಪದ್ಯ ಬರೆಯುವಂಥದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ತುಂಬಾ ನೋಬೆಲ್ ಉದ್ದೇಶಗಳು ಇರ್ತದೆ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರು. ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಈ ಪದ್ಯನ ಬರೀಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಹೊರಟಿದ್ದಂಥದ್ದು ವಾಕಿಂಗ್ ಟೂರ್ನ ದಾರಿ ಖರ್ಚಿಗಾಗಿ. ಬಹುಶಃ ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಕಷ್ಟ ಆಗ್ಬೋದು. ವರ್ಡ್ಸ್ವರ್ತ್, ಡೊರೊಥಿ ವರ್ಡ್ಸ್ವರ್ತ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಕೋಲ್ರಿಡ್ಜ್ ಮೂರು ಕೂಡ ದೇ ವಾಂಟೆಡ್ ಟು ಕಂಡಕ್ಟ್ ಅ ವಾಕ್, ಒಂದ್ ಕಡೆಗೆ ಟೂರ್ ಮಾಡುವಂತ ಉದ್ದೇಶ ಇಟ್ಕೋತಾರೆ. ಟು ಬೇರ್ ದೋಸ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸಸ್, ವರ್ಡ್ಸ್ವರ್ತ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಕೋಲ್ರಿಡ್ಜ್ ಡಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ಟು ರೈಟ್ ಅ poem ಬರೀಬೇಕು. It must include mystic elements, it must include supernatural element, a sacrifice, a killing, something like that. ಈ ವಿಚಾರ ಕುರಿತು ಒಂದು ಪದ್ಯ ಬರೆದು let us send it to a journal and they will publish it, and with that money we can travel. That was the original plan. But Wordsworth eventually he withdrew from the plan, and the poem actually never materialized between the two of them. Later, that idea somehow stuck with Coleridge. Supernatural element ಬರುವಂಥ ಸಂಗತಿ, ಒಬ್ಬ ಮರೈನರ್ನ ಒಂಟಿತನ, ಅಲ್ಲೇನೋ ಆಗುವಂಥದ್ದು, ಇದು ಬಹುಶಃ ಕೋಲ್ರಿಡ್ಜ್ ನನ್ನ ಕಾಡಿರಬಹುದು. It might have evoked his evoked his memories of childhood, or his memories of loneliness with his fellow soldier. Anyway, that poem stuck with him, and in 1797, one fine day, he came to Dorothy and Wordsworth with this fine poem, Rime of the Ancient Mariner. From the beginning, did not like it much, But anyway, eventually it was very famous and included in almost all the English famous anthologies. Now, without delaying further, let us go through the poem. Actually, I wanted to. Actually, my original idea was to give a lecture on the poem, but I thought it would be a great injustice to the poem and Coleridge to just go on blurting out something what I know. So I just wanted to read the poem to just get a feel of it. I hope you are still with me because I can't see your faces, and I hope you are not still asleep. If you are, good for you. This is a long poem, so we are going to read some parts of it and following the story, of course. I think many students are familiar with the story. The poem starts like this. It is an ancient mariner, and he stalked one of three. By thou long beard and glittering eye, now wherefore stops thou me? A wedding ceremony is going on. Ironically, actually, naani ಒಂದು ಮದುವೆ ಮನೆ ಮುಗಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ಮದುವೆ ಊಟ ನಿಶ್ಚಿತಾರ್ಥದ ಊಟ ಮುಗಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ನೋಡಿ coincidental ಆಗಿ ನಾನು ಮದುವೆ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. A wedding ceremony is going on. Three men are going as guests. Suddenly, an old mariner with long beard and a mystical look in his eyes stops one of the guests. ಮದುವೆ ಮನೆಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ನಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಪಟ್ ಅಂತೇಳಿ ಮೂವರ ಲೋಕನ್ನ ನಿಲ್ಲಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡು. Why? ಯಾಕೆ ನಿಲ್ಲಿಸ್ಬೇಕು? He has to tell a story. ದಾರಿ ಮಧ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಯಾರಾದ್ರೂ ನಿಲ್ಲಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ನಾನು ಕತೆ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ನೀವೇನ್ ಅನ್ಕೋತೀರಿ? The mariner is so impatient to tell his story that he begins as soon as he stops the wedding guest. He just comes before him abruptly and starts. There was a shame. But wedding guest is not in the mood to listen to his story. Understandably, he is irritated. Hold off, unhand me, grey-beard loon. You lunatic, you madman. Just leave my hand alone. ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಆಗಿದ್ರೆ ಇನ್ನೂ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಬೈಬೋದಾಗಿತ್ತು, but this is an English poem. Okay, the ancient mariner stops the wedding guest. As soon as the wedding guest scolds him, the mariner leaves his hand but holds him with his glittering. Mudukana kannalli there is a mysterious power, there is a magical power, there is something which holds the wedding guest back. The other two go on jotege idravanta innibru hogtare, but he sits down. He sits down on the stove and listens like a 3 years child. ಒಬ್ಬ ಸಣ್ಣ ಹುಡುಗನ ರೀತಿ ಮಂತ್ರ ಮುಗ್ಧಗೊಂಡು ಕಥೆ ಕೇಳಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಶುರು. The story begins. ಕಥೆ ಶುರುವಾಗುತ್ತೆ. Long ago, a ship with a young mariner journeys southwards. Days pass and suddenly they are hit with a storm. The mariner with his companions, he goes southwards and suddenly a storm breaks out. What kind of storm it is? Coleridge compares it to a giant bird following its prey. ದೊಡ್ಡ ಗರುಡ ಸಣ್ಣ ಗುಬ್ಬಿಯನ್ನ ಹೇಗೆ ಅಟ್ಟಾಡಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗುತ್ತೋ, ದೈತ್ಯ ಹಕ್ಕಿ ಹೇಗೆ ಅಟ್ಟಾಡಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗುತ್ತೋ, ಆ ಚಂಡಮಾರುತ ಹಡಗನ್ನ ತನ್ನ ಬಲವಾದ ರೆಕ್ಕೆಗಳನ್ನ ಬೀಸುತ್ತಾ ಹಿಂಬಾಲಿಸುತ್ತೆ. With sloping masts and dipping prow, as who pursued with yell and blow. ಗುದ್ದು ಕೂಗು ಬಿರುಗಾಳಿ ಅವರನ್ನ ಹಿಂಬಾಲಿಸುತ್ತೆ. And the ship goes on and on and on and finally driven into a completely unfamiliar territory. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ತನಕ ಅವ್ರು ನೋಡದೇ ಇರುವಂತಹ ಜಾಗ ಕರ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. They go to southern pole. It drives them to south. It is what we now call Antarctica. How is it? How is the place? ಹೇಗಿತ್ತು? The ice was here, the ice was there, the ice was all around. ಸುತ್ತಮುತ್ತ ಪೂರ್ತಿ ಮಂಜುಗಡ್ಡೆಗಳು ತುಂಬಿರುವಂತ ಶೀತಲ ಪ್ರದೇಶ, ಡಿಸಲೇಟ್ ಪ್ಲೇಸ್. Nor shapes of men nor beasts we can, nothing can be seen. Nowhere else is there except the ship. ಬೇರೆ ಯಾವ ಜೀವಂತ ವಸ್ತು ಕೂಡ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇಲ್ಲ. It is utter solitude. And how is the ice there? It cracked and growled and roared and howled like noises in a swoon. ಹೇಗಿದೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ಐಸು? ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಥ್ರೆಟನಿಂಗ್, ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ಭಯ ಪಡಿಸೋ ಹಾಗಿದೆ. ದರ್ ಇಸ್ ನೋ ಲಿವಿಂಗ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ ಇಸ್ ದೇ. Then you can see in the painting, of course I forgot to mention, this is an illustration by painter Gustave Doré. He was a very famous painter and he illustrated almost all the classical works. Okay, now see, there is a living thing actually. In that utter desolation, there is one thing which follows them. What is that? They see an albatross. At length did cross an albatross. It comes to them like a Christian soul, like a God's messenger. At length did cross an albatross. It ate the food it never had eaten, and round it flew. In that lonely climate, in that lonely environment, albatross accompanies them, and it actually guides them through that ice. It guides them through that ice, and the ship follows it. And as soon as they feed the albatross, ಹಕ್ಕಿಯ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಅವರ ಫುಡ್ ಅನ್ನು ಅವರು ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋತಾರೆ, and a good wind blows and a good south wind sprung up behind, the albatross did follow, and every day for food or play came to the mariners hollow. Now they have a companion, a good innocent bird with them. ಅವ್ರ ಜೊತೆಗಿದೆ, ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ಆ ಕಷ್ಟದ ಎನ್ವಿರಾನ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ನಿಂದ ಆಚೆ, good wind is blowing there again after the terrible storm. They are again returning to normalcy. Everything is going well. Everything is going well. But in this poem, it is not everything is, this is not a story where everything is intended to go well. The listener, our wedding guest, observes a strange look on the mariner's face. There's something frightening on the mariner's face. ಕಥೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಿರೋನ ಮುಖದಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾಕೋ ಒಂದು ಭೀಕರ ಭಾವನೆಯನ್ನು ನೋಡ್ತಾನೆ. ನೋಡಿ ಹೇಳ್ತಾನೆ, God save thee, ancient mariner, from the fiends that plague thee thus. Why lookst thou so? ಯಾಕೆ ಈ ರೀತಿಯ ಭಾವನೆ ನಿನ್ನ ಮುಖದಲ್ಲಿದೆ? Why lookst thou so? With my crossbow I shot the albatross. The mariner kills the albatross. Why? We don't know why he does it. Why did he do this random, cruel, inexplicable act? Why did he kill the innocent bird, which was their friend? ತಮ್ಮ ಸ್ನೇಹಿತನಾಗಿದ್ದಂತಹ ಹಕ್ಕಿಯನ್ನು ಅವನು ಯಾಕೆ ಕೊಲ್ತಾನೆ? We don't know. Now he has killed the bird which brought them good wind. ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ? For some days nothing happens. ಕೆಲವು ದಿನಗಳ ಕಾಲ ಏನೂ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. His shipmates first criticize him, but when nothing happens, the wind blows as usual, the sea is calm as usual, nothing happens. His companions, the other sailors, they first criticize him, but later, when everything is normal, they say, okay, no problem. You did a good thing actually. You did a good thing. All over, I had killed the bird that brought the fog and mist. Don't worry, that bird brought us mist. That bird brought us fog. It was right, said they, such birds to slay that bring the fog and mist. It was right, it was a good thing, don't worry about it. And thus, they became accomplices in his crime. By supporting his crime, by supporting his murder of that innocent bird, they also have a share in his sin. ಅವನ ಪಾಪದಲ್ಲಿ ಅವರು ಭಾಗಿದಾರ. Everything is normal now. But in his heart, he knows that the albatross murder will not go unpunished. I had done an hellish thing. I know I had done an hellish thing, and it would work them woe. It would bring some misfortune to us, he says. What misfortune it brings? The ship gets into a calm and silent sea, and it stops. The wind stops blowing. The ship cannot move. The ship stays there for days and days. ಮುಂದಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ ಹಿಂದಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ ಎಲ್ಲಿಗೂ ಹೋಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. The ship stays there. It stays as idle as a painted ship upon a painted ocean. ಚಿತ್ರದಲ್ಲಿರುವಂತಹ ಶಿಪ್ ನ ಹಾಗೆ ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಟಿಕ್ ಆಗಿ ನಿಂತ್ಬಿಡ್ತದೆ. Their food runs out, their water runs out, and the wind drops. It is as if they are trapped in a vast prison of water and sky. ಮೇಲ್ಗಡೆ ಆಕಾಶ, ಕೆಳಗಡೆ ನೀರು. It is like a prison. Their food and water runs out. So you may have heard of this famous lines: water, water. All the boats did shrink. Water, water everywhere, nor any drop to drink. The water is in abundance, but what can you do with it? You can't drink it. There is nothing to eat. The punishment for the ship's crew has begun. What has happened? Why did the ship stop? Actually, Coleridge gives an explanation in his notes by the side of the poem. He says, a polar spirit has followed them, a spirit which loved the albatross, because the albatross loved this man and they killed it. A spirit, it is angry now, and it is following the ship. It is following the ship. And how do they know it? They see it in a dream. The mariners see it in their dreams that the ship has followed them. 9 fathom deep he had followed us from the land of mist and snow. Now everyone is angry. Everyone is feeling lonely. Hunger, terror, weariness grip the ship. So in their desperation, in their frustration, the sailors blame everything. And as a punishment, they hang the dead albatross on his neck. ಅವನ ತಪ್ಪಿಗೆ ಪನಿಷ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಅವನ ಜೊತೆಗಿರುವಂತಹ shipmates, so those people who praised him earlier, they hang that albatross body on his neck. So there is hunger and terror everywhere. Suddenly, the mariner spots something on the horizon. ದಿಗಂತದ ಅಂಚಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಸಣ್ಣ ಚುಕ್ಕೆ ಕಾಣುತ್ತೆ. What is it? A speck, a mist, a shape I wist, and still it neared and neared, as if it dodged the water sprite. It plunged and tacked and veered. ದೂರದಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೋ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಒಂದು ಚುಕ್ಕೆ, ಒಂದು ಶೇಪ್ ಏನೋ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, and he sees that it is a ship. ಒಂದು ಹಡಗು ಬರ್ತಿದೆ ಆ ಕಡೆಯಿಂದ, and he's happy. Finally, someone is here to save us. ನಮ್ಮನ್ನ ಕಾಪಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಯಾರೋ ಬಂದ್ರು. He wants to cry out, but he can't. No voice comes out of his mouth because his throat is so parched. ಬಾಯಾರಿಕೆಯಿಂದ ಒಣಗಿ ಹೋಗಿರುವಂತ ಗಂಟಲಲ್ಲಿ ಧ್ವನಿ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಕೂಗ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಪ್ರಯತ್ನ ಪಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾನೆ. ಶಿಪ್. What does his arm? ತನ್ನ ತೋಳನ್ನ ಕಚ್ಚಿ ರಕ್ತ ಹೀರಿ ಗಂಟ್ಲನ್ನ ತಂಪು ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಕೂಗ್ತಾನೆ. ಸೇಲ್ ಸೇಲ್ cried, a sail, ಹಡಗು ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. With throats unslaked, with black lips baked, again they heard me call. Everyone is wonderstruck. Gramercy, they for joy did grin. ಬಹುದಿನಗಳ ನಂತರ ಅವರ ಮುಖದಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಸಣ್ಣ ಮುಗುಳ್ನಗೆ ಕಾಣುತ್ತೆ. And all at once their breath drew in as they were drinking all. Oh my God, we are saved. All are relieved for a moment. only for a moment, because it is not an ordinary ship. It is actually a skeleton of a ship. That's all. ಮಾಮೂಲಿ ಹಡಗಲ್ಲ ಅದು. ಆ ಹಡಗನ್ನು ನಡೆಸ್ತಾ ಇರುವಂತವರು ಮಾಮೂಲಿ ಅಂತವರು ಅಲ್ಲ. ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ದ ಶಿಪ್ ಇಸ್ ಮೂವಿಂಗ್ ವಿದೌಟ್ ವಿಂಡ್. ಗಾಳಿಯ ಸಹಾಯದಿಂದ ಚಲಿಸ್ತಾ ಇರುವಂತ, ವೇಗವಾಗಿ ಚಲಿಸ್ತಾ ಇರುವಂತ ಹಡಗು ಹತ್ರ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. And the sea, there are no human beings on that ship. ಮನುಷ್ಯರಿಲ್ಲ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ. There are two frightening figures. ಎರಡು ಭಯ ಹುಟ್ಟಿಸುವಂತ. They are playing dice on it. ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅವರು? ಅದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಪಗಡೆ ಆಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. One is death and another one is nightmare life in death. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿರುವಂತ ಒಂದು ಫಿಗರ್ ಸಾವು, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಬದುಕಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಸಾವನ್ನು ಕಾಣಿಸುವಂತಹ ದೇವತೆ ಅಥವಾ ದೇವತೆ. One is, okay, how is she? Her lips were red, her looks were free, her locks were yellow as gold, her skin was as white as leprosy. The nightmare life in death was she, who takes man's blood with cold. ಆಕೆ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ಭಯದಿಂದ ನಿಮ್ಮ ರಕ್ತ ಹೆಪ್ಪುಗಟ್ಟೆ. Okay, what are they doing? They are playing dice. ಪಗಡೆ ಆಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. They play for this mariners life. ಈ ಆಲ್ಬಟ್ರಾಸ್ ನ ಕೊಂದಿರುವಂತಹ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಯ ಜೀವಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಅವರು ಪಗಡೆ ಆಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. And life in death wins. ಅಲ್ಲಿರುವಂತ terrible lady, nightmare life in death, she wins his life. She claims the ancient mariner. Then I won, quote she, and whistles thrice. She whistles 3 times. What happens now? Imagine, ಕಲ್ಪನೆ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ಸಮುದ್ರದ ಮಧ್ಯೆ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಎದುರುಗಡೆಗೆ ಸಾವು ಮತ್ತೆ ಬದುಕಿನಲ್ಲೇ ಸಾವನ್ನು ತೋರಿಸುವಂತ ಇಬ್ಬರು ಫಿಗರ್ಗಳು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಜೀವಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಪಗಡೆ ಆಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಲೈಫ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಸಫರಿಂಗ್ ವಿನ್ಸ್ ಯು ಓವರ್. ಜೀವನ ಪೂರ್ತಿ ದುಃಖ ಕೊಡುವಂತಹ ದೇವತೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಜೀವವನ್ನು ಕ್ಲೇಮ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ವಾಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಪನ್ಸ್? ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ? ದ ಡೇ ಇಸ್ ಡನ್. ದಿನ ಮುಗಿತು. ದ ನೈಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಕಮ್ ಅಂಡ್ 200 sailors dropped dead one by one. 200 ಜನ sailors they dropped dead. ಇದಕ್ಕಿದಾಗೆ ಕೊನೆ ಉಸಿರು. And each turned his face with a ghastly pang. ಹೇಗೆ ಸಾಯ್ತಾರವರು? Each turned his face with a ghastly pang and cursed me with his eye. ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಬ್ಬನ ಕಣ್ಣಲ್ಲೂ ಆರೋಪ ಇದೆ, ಶಾಪ ಇದೆ. Why did you do that? Why did you kill that bird? ಆ ಶಾಪ ಇದೆ, ಆ ಆರೋಪ ಇದೆ, ಆ ದೂಷಣೆ ಇದೆ. Cursed me with his eye. I am still living man. 200 ಜನ with heavy thumb, a lifeless lump, they dropped down one by one. The souls did from their bodies fly. They fled to bliss. Oh, whether they went to heaven or hell, I don't know. And every soul, it passed me by like the whiz of my crossbow. The albatross na ಕೊಂದಾಗ ಅವನ ಬಾಣ ಹೇಗೆ ಪಾಸ್ ಆಯ್ತು, like the whiz of his crossbow, their souls passed him. Now the wedding guest is afraid. Maybe I am talking to a ghost. ಸತ್ತೋಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾನೆ. Maybe he is also dead and I am talking to a ghost. He is afraid. I fear the ancient mariner. I fear the skinny hat and dot long and lank and brown as is a ribbed sea sand, because you look more like a ghost than a human being. ನೀನ್ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ದೆವ್ವದ ತರನೇ ಕಾಣ್ತಾ ಇದೀಯ. So I fear thee. Fear not, the wedding guest. Don't worry. What about the mariner? This body dropped not. I did not die. He is the only living being on the ship now, watching his friends, companions, everyone aboard. Alone, alone, all alone, alone on a wide, wide sea, and never a saint took pity on my soul in agony. It is the loneliness he feels. And the entire ship is alone. On the entire ocean, he is alone. And the suffering, the weight of the curse, the weight of his guilt, it crushes him. He tries to pray. He tries to pray to the God, but he could not. ಪ್ರಾರ್ಥನೆ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಕೂಡ ಮನಸ್ಸು ಬರಬೇಕಲ್ಲ. Only a cruel, wicked whisper comes out. Cruel, wicked whisper comes out. He can't even sleep. ನಿದ್ದೆ ಹತ್ರ ಸುಳಿತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. It is as if the weight of sea and ocean, they are sitting on his eyelids. He closes his eyes, but he can't sleep. His eyelids, they beat. His eyes beat inside his eyelids. He can't sleep. He's all alone. He does not have anything to eat. That loneliness, it is totally crushing him. Now, his punishment has begun. This is the punishment. This is life in death, actually. Imagine yourself in the place of the mariner, all alone in an unknown region, and you don't know whether you are going to live or die. This is the real punishment, and the guilt which is crushing your heart. And days and night pass. One night, in the beautiful light of moon, he sees some sea creatures playing. They're beautiful water snakes. They were shiny and blue and green and black. Water snakes were playing, and in the moonlight they looked beautiful. And without his awareness, without knowing, he blesses them. He's happy to see them. He says, "Oh, happy living things, no tongue their beauty might declare. A spring of love gushed from my heart, and I blessed them unaware." ತುಂಬಾ ಸುಂದರವಾಗಿರುವಂತಹ, ತುಂಬಾ ಮುಗ್ಧವಾಗಿರುವಂತಹ, ಈ ಪ್ರಪಂಚದ್ದು ಅಲ್ವೇನೋ ಅಂತ ಅನಿಸುವಂತಹ ಜೀವಿಗಳನ್ನು ನೋಡಿದಾಗ ಅವನ ದೇಹದಲ್ಲಿ, ಅವನ ಹೃದಯದ ಮೂಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ, and he blesses them unaware. ನೆನ್ಪಿಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, he kills the albatross randomly. There is no reason for it. And again, when he blesses these things, it comes unaware. He does not know why he did it, but he blesses them. As soon as he does it, as soon as he blessed those things, blessed those animals, he could pray. And the body of albatross drops from his neck. And ಕತ್ತಿನಿಂದ albatross na deha ಕೆಳಗಡೆ ಬಿದ್ದು. The self same moment I could pray, and from my neck so free the albatross fell off and sank like lead into the sea. ಆ ಭಾರ ಅವನ ಕತ್ತಿನಿಂದ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ, ಆ ಭಾರ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಮಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಅವನ ಹೃದಯದಿಂದ ಕೂಡ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. Next, you may remember the story of Ajamila here, probably. ಅಜಾಮಿಳನ ಕಥೆ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿರಬಹುದು. ಜೀವನ ಪೂರ್ತಿ ಪಾಪ ಮಾಡಿರುವಂತ ಅಜಾಮಿಳ ಸಾಯುವ ಸಮಯದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾರಾಯಣ ಅಂತ ತನ್ನ ಮಗನನ್ನ ಕರೀತಾನೆ, ತಕ್ಷಣ ಅವನಿಗೆ ಮೋಕ್ಷ ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ. The story is different, but it's just that at that moment he could utter the name of the God and he went to moksha. In this case also, mariner blesses them unaware, and at least his suffering has reduced to some extent, and he could sleep now. Oh, sleep, it is a gentle thing. Oh, to go to Mary Queen the praise be given. She sent the gentle sleep from heaven that slid into my soul. He could sleep. I hope you are not sleeping. Okay, he could sleep, and in his dream he sees that the water buckets on the deck, they were filled, and when he wakes up, It actually rains. Male barutte. Now, what happens? Heavy wind blows suddenly. Heavy wind blows and it moves the ship. And another miracle happens. All the dead men rise one by one. They take the ropes and they work the ship and they move it and they make it move. Heavy wind blows, the dead companions, everyone, they wake up. And the mariner, he can't believe his eyes. He sees all this as if in a dream. What does all this mean? Why did it all happen? In a trance-like state, the mariner overhears two spirits talking about it. Why all these dead men awake? They are not alive actually. They are just being driven by spirits which live in the ocean. And there are two spirits which talk about this mariner. One asked, is it he? Is this the man? Why all this happened? What happened to him? And the other voice, it replies, this man has done a terrible crime. He killed the bird which was loved by the polar spirit. That's why he needs to be punished. That's why the polar spirit has chased the ship. Does it mean the mariner's sufferings are over now? He has suffered too much. He has suffered loneliness. He suffered in the middle of this ocean, and he's in a very sorry state. Is his suffering over? No. The other voice says, the man hath penance done, and penance more will do. No, his sufferings are not over. His sufferings are not over. They are yet to continue. He needs to continue his penance. Because the spirit himself in the land of mist and snow, he loved the word that loved the man who shot him with his bow. So he needs to suffer more. But now the strong wind, it takes the ship almost to the shore. A pilot boat comes near the ship, and a pilot and his assistant, a boy and a hermit, they come near the ship and they seize the mariner. A mariner is happy to see them, and he's rescued by them. They almost think that he's a devil because he has a devilish countenance, but he gets into the boat. As soon as he gets into the boat, the ship sinks. Ship sinks and he gets to the shore. There, he goes to the hermit, who is a holy man, and asks him to shrieve him from his sins. He asks him to free him from his guilt. Oh, shrieve me, holy man. Shrieve me, holy man, says. The moment the hermit asks, what's all this about? What is your story? He feels a terrible pain. Oh, shrieve me, holy man. The hermit crossed his brow. Say quick, quoth he, I bid thee say, what manner of man art thou? Yantha vyakti neenu, yake ee reeti idiya? What happened to you? As soon as that question was asked, forthwith this frame of mine was wrenched with a woeful agony. ಅವನ ಇಡೀ ದೇಹ ಹೇಳಲು ಸಾಧ್ಯವಾದಂತ ಒಂದು ನೋವಿನಿಂದ ನರಳಾಡ, which forced me to begin my tale. ಅವನ ಕಥೆಯನ್ನ ಹೇಳದೆ ಆ ನೋವು ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. And then it left me free. ಆ ಕಥೆ ಮುಗಿಸಿದ ಮೇಲೆ he's free from the pain. Since then, he knows that as soon as the pain comes, he has to tell the story. Since then, at an uncertain hour, ಯಾವಾಗ ಬರುತ್ತೋ ಹೇಳಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ, that agony returns, until my ghastly tale is told, this heart within me burns. Until I relate the story to someone, I can't endure the pain. ಯಾರಿಗಾದ್ರೂ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕು, ನನ್ನ ಈ ಕಥೆಯನ್ನ ಹೇಳದ ಹೊರತು ಆ ನೋವು ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಆಗ. I pass like night from land to land. I have strange power of speech. This ancient mariner, he has strange power of speech. He can enchant his listener. The very good example is our wedding guest. ಯಾರಿಗೆ ಅವನ ಕಥೆ ಹೇಳಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಶುರು ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ, ಅವರು ಅವನ ಕಥೆಯನ್ನ ಮಂತ್ರಮುಗ್ಧರ ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. But he chooses his listeners. Listen to this. That moment that his face I see, I know the man that must hear me. No, he's not telling his story to everyone. He's not telling all and sundry. No, he chooses his listener. As soon as he sees someone's face, he knows this man must hear my story. Okay, the wedding guest is the man chosen by, he is among the countless men chosen by the ancient mariner. And at the end of the poem, he wants to walk with the wedding guest, like a friend, like a companion. He says, "Oh, sweeter than the marriage feast, it is sweeter far to me to walk together to the kirk with a goodly company." It is sweet to walk with a human being, because the mariner spent a lot of time alone in the sea. So he loves the company of people. He loves to tell stories, of course, and he loves the company of people. And he has some kind of message also at the end. Farewell, farewell, but this I tell to thee, thou wedding guest. He prayed well who loved well, both man and bird and beast. Who loved well, both man and bird and beast. ಯಾರು ಸುತ್ತಮುತ್ತಲಿನ ಜೀವ ಜಗತ್ತನ್ನ ಪ್ರೀತಿಯಿಂದ ಕರುಣೆಯಿಂದ ನೋಡ್ಕೊತಾನೋ, he is the one, his prayers are accepted first. His are the best prayers. And the wedding guest leaves him. He went like one that had been stunned. After listening to the story, he's a different man. It is as if he's in a trance and he's of sense for long. ಯಾಕೋ ಒಂದು ದುಃಖದ ತಂತು ಅವನಲ್ಲಿ ಉಳ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ. A sadder and a wiser man, he rose the morrow. ಮುಂದಿನ ದಿನಕ್ಕೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ದುಃಖದಿಂದ ಕೂಡಿರುವಂತಹ, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ತಿಳುವಳಿಕೆ ಇರುವಂತಹ ಅಥವಾ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ವಿವೇಕಿಯಾದಂತಹ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಯಾಗಿ ಬದಲಾಗಿರ್ತಾನೆ. This is the poem. I know I did not do not even 1% of justice to it, but I tried my best, I think. I'm sorry if I bored you to death. These are the references I have. And the first one, please, you can visit this page. This is from this page, the first reference, I use, I forgot to mention it near the images. These are the illustration by Gustave Doré, and there are many other images also. Please refer to them. And thank you very much for listening to me today. I think we will continue the discussion tomorrow. What literary devices are used in this poem? There are many. Actually, this poem can be read as an allegory. Coleridge, he uses language so beautifully that he almost paints a picture through his words. Literary devices, he uses alliteration to a great effect, and many other figures of speech. I think we have time for that in the next session. Many literary devices are used. Okay, there's another question, I think. Is it related anyway? Is it related to Christianity? Okay. That's a good question. Actually, Coleridge was, he has so much reading in theology, and this story Christian allegory, and it's related to the nature of evil too. The Coleridge actually, in one interpretation, he is trying to discuss the nature of good and evil, And there is another interesting fact, actually, I wanted to tell it tomorrow. Actually, Coleridge wanted to write a big poem related to the nature of good and evil, the origin of good and evil. The poem, big poem like Milton's Paradise Lost. Actually, he did an elaborate groundwork for that, but unfortunately, that poem never materialized. Instead of that, we have Ancient Mariner. Yeah, there are many elements related to religion here, but not only Christianity. Coleridge was interested in other religions, myths from other religions too. And as I said earlier, his brothers worked in India for considerable amount of time, and he had so much about India. How look at the bird albatross. As a reader, how do you look at the bird? I don't know. You can look at it from many ways. You can look at it from the modern perspective, like the eco-critic perspective, as a representative of nature, like the nature we are destroying every day. And you can also look at it as the innocence, as the innocence, representative of innocence, which we have to kill in a creative process or maim in a creative process. There are many other ways to look at it, I think. Actually, I think for us now, looking at albatross as a representative of nature, which we are continuously destroying and disturbing the balance of nature, that we can, that is the most relevant thing, I think. Okay. Though he loved it. How can we look at the nature of man when though he loved it? We don't know whether he loved it or not. It was a companion for him, and as I said, there is no proper explanation in the poem why he does it. And the beauty of the poem is it does not put people, it does not put that man into a particular category, like in an allegory, common allegory. He just kills it for random reason, and later he blesses some sea creatures just like that, unawares. Probably Coleridge was discussing, or Coleridge was thinking about the mystery of human nature. Some things we don't know why we do it. We just do it.